Well, the thing that can get me past my inconsolability are some new Apple products.
What, we didn't cover
Always.
this last week?
We did, but I actually got one. I didn't get one for me though. I got an Apple TV for my mom,
Okay.
and I set it up because, she doesn't know how to set up stuff. I
But
think
but
she
it should just
totally
work,
could.
right?
Well, here was the setup process.
Take
I
out
got this
of
little box,
box.
took it out of the box. It had so it's this beautiful black little hockey puck square little thing, tiny. There's a
Wait,
power
is it a hockey
cord.
puck or is it square?
Well, it's a square thing about the size of a hockey puck.
Okay.
Size, consistency of a hockey puck. The only thing in the box was a power cord and no power brick. Oh my goodness, I am in love with this thing. It has no fan, it makes no noise, and there's no power brick. It's just a cord.
Huh. Does that
It's
mean it
just
actually uses 120 volts or is it just transformed inside the box?
I don't know if I bet there's a little thing inside the box, but whatever. However they're doing it, I love it. Good job.
Ugh.
Uh,
I still have one of the old Xboxes. I don't know if the new ones have changed, but the brick on the old Xbox it's like half the size of the Xbox. And
how is
no,
that possible? The Xbox is huge.
okay, maybe a quarter, but still it's freaking huge and it is loud as shit.
This thing is silent. Silent. I love it. So you need an HDMI cable, but my mom, she bought a new PC laptop, and really all she used it for was streaming Netflix onto her TV.
Mhm.
And and she told me about that, and I'm like, oh, honey. And I'm like, I'm buying you an Apple TV. If all you're doing is streaming that, and she's like, and sometimes it like does stuff, and then I hear the sound from the PC, but the image is on the computer or like whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's so terribly inconvenient when you could have an Apple TV and it would work fine. And it's like $90.
Yeah.
So plug the power cord in, plug the HDMI cable in, go to the go to the HDMI input, and it's on, right? It's like, boom, here's the interface.
Yeah.
And then it just asks you, like, language, is this the right time zone? And, what is your Wi-Fi password? And I'm like typing my Wi-Fi password in. Now, I had to use the remote. And there's some things I like about this thing and some things I don't like about this thing.
Apple TV comes with a remote.
It comes with a remote,
Okay.
and I don't like the remote.
Uh,
So I enter it
why
with the
can't you
remote.
use your iPhone?
Well, I enter the Wi-Fi password with the remote, and then once it's on my Wi-Fi, I'm able to use my iPhone to control it, which
Okay.
is great. Once they're on the same network,
I don't
then
understand why I can't control my Xbox from my phone.
you should be able to.
I should be able to.
It's a joy to control it from my iPhone. You open the remote app, and once you have home sharing on, this is the one area where you kind of probably need like a younger person or someone who understands Apple products to make sure everything is set up correctly, like home sharing is on, and this is whatever. Once you've done that, you just go to the remote app, and it's like, there's an Apple TV on your network. Would you like to control it? And I'm like, yes. And you have this little touch area where you just like swipe left, swipe right, up, down, tap, and it's just like you have direction controls on a remote. And you can just like swipe around on the interface. And then the glorious thing is whenever you're presented with something where you need to type something, like I want to search for Downton Abbey,
Hmm.
as opposed to like going up, up, down, down, left, right, left, down, up, up, D, down, down, left, left, right, right, blah, 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 O, blah, blah, blah. You can just go D, O, and you can just type it in with the keypad
Right.
and enter and go. Great. Love that.
Man, I forget what it was on. I think it was an upcoming Xbox release that they made a keyboard that someone, if they've seen this, can correct me, that you move your joystick, like say you move it up, then it'll give you 4 letters on the 4 buttons, A, B, X, Y. Then you move it left, it gives you 4 different letters. You move it right, it gives you 4 different letters. And that way you can get used to that keyboard and you can type just about as fast as you can on a keyboard. I've seen someone do it.
Ugh.
You have to learn it. I mean, it's not intuitive, but neither is scrolling back and forth with the D-pad for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'd have to try that. I don't know. I think the best thing is having a phone and you can just do on the
Agreed.
keyboard.
Agreed.
Um, so it was great to set up. Totally easy. It's 1080. The old version of the Apple TV was only 720, so it's totally 1080. It deals with my content amazingly. So I watched the newest episode of American Horror Story on the TV in 1080, and it just like streamed it right to my TV. It's still not downloaded onto my computer because the thing is so big. But like I want to watch it on the TV. It's just like you own this, you can watch it, and it does it. It's great.
That's
It
nice.
doesn't have to save it onto my box. It just streams it down. So there are a couple things about it that are great. One, Netflix, awesome. It's a great Netflix box. It's quiet. I mean, thing is silent. It runs pretty cool, and it's just like the web interface to Netflix. The one thing it's missing, and I bet this is missing from all Netflix experiences that aren't the web, it doesn't have access to that functionality where at the end of like a TV show, it like says, "Hey, I'm gonna play the next TV show. If you don't like press something in the next 15 seconds."
The
You know that?
Xbox version will pop up the next episode, but it won't play it unless you actually press A.
Yeah, I would imagine that Netflix is probably blocking people from being able to use that
It's
explicitly.
I'm sure they don't want it to play automatically in case you walked away and they don't want to waste their bandwidth on you. For the same
Yeah,
reason
well,
that they will not pre-cache a video if you pause, which really annoys me.
that's true. I mean, they do play them consecutively if you're on the web.
Yes.
Um,
Hulu
ah,
does the same thing.
yes. So YouTube, being able to watch YouTube videos on your TV basically without any friction is amazing.
Yeah.
I tweeted a or whatever, a picture, a photo of me watching Five Things on my TV, on a 40-inch TV, and it looked great because Sean records them in 1080, which you can't even take advantage of on most computers.
Yeah.
I can't on my laptop because the screen's too small.
Right, right. Yeah, someone asked me why I was bothering to record everything in 1080, and I was like, because in 2 years, all these videos that people are putting up in 720 are going to look like a postage stamp on the Retina displays that people are using.
Right, and I can say that right now. Like I watched a Five Things on the TV, and it looked great. It looked way better than it looks on YouTube, by the way.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so if you have not watched the Five Things on like a TV or something, you're missing out. It's great.
I make
Only
sure that
thing-
the quality is as good as I can make it.
It looks amazing. The only thing is there is no like most ways to access YouTube. You don't get any access to um,
All the interactive functions.
yeah, all the stuff that you put on the screen and things. I don't know what that's called.
Yeah,
but
because they don't care.
they don't care. They don't care.
They
But
care that it is monetizable. That's what they care about.
yes, but which is lame. But
But
it's really
important.
easy to log in. Yeah, it's easy to log in, and it looks like I don't know if I've starred the channels that I watch the most, or if YouTube just knows them, but like you were right at the top, along with people that like I watch frequently. So I was like, oh, I don't have to like scroll through a bunch of stuff. All the stuff that I normally watch all the time is right here at the top anyway. Not alphabetically sorted or anything. It was just like, oh, great. So YouTube app, great. Controlling the thing from my phone is amazing. It feels like the future. There are a couple things that I don't like. The first of them is Hulu Plus is a total pain in the ass on the Apple TV, as it is on most things.
Really?
And yes. And it's mostly the way that it handles like splicing in advertisements. It's so bad at it.
What do you mean?
So like I was watching a Family Guy episode, and somehow on really fast internet, it got somehow confused as to the advertisement it was playing and the show I was watching, and it kind of got like overlaid, and I had to basically like go out of the episode, leave the app, go back in, start the episode over, fast forward back to that point, and then it like was like, oh, okay, I'm not showing you an advertisement anymore. When I was rewinding through the episode, it started rewinding through an advertisement while the dot was like on the line of like, I'm rewinding through your episode now. And I'm like, that's not Family Guy. That is a stupid mobile phone advertisement that you just showed me. And why are you doing that? And I found that it was really wonky with how it deals with advertisements in like the experience. Also, I'm a little pissed that I have to see so many advertisements all the time. This is just like
Yeah.
a thing with Hulu that I have to watch like 5 minutes of ads when I pay for it.
I think of it. I was really annoyed at it at first, and now I kind of think of it like this: it's like a magazine subscription. You're paying for,
Flip through the pages.
but you still have to look at the ads. No, you don't have to look at them for 30 seconds or whatever. But
I mean, I get the whole like I'm paying to get access to this content, but
Well-
it's sort of like Prime, Amazon Prime, you know?
yeah,
Like,
actually,
then
you're,
I can-
you're hitting the point of the article that I sent you earlier today about Netflix.
Okay. But it's like I'm happy to pay for the access to the content, but I also would generally prefer to pay for the content and not see ads.
I wish
So
that they
like,
had. I wish that Hulu were $7.99, and then Hulu without ads was I don't know $14.99. I would pay it.
I would probably pay $7.99 to get access to Hulu Plus, and then I can either watch some like here's a season of Family Guy. You can watch it with ads, or you can pay $10 and see the whole season without ads. Your choice. And I'd be like, I will pay $10 for this one thing that I want to watch without ads, and never show an ad on this ever. That I think that would be fair, and I think that they could actually work that because it's hard to like come up with a monetization strategy.
For content that's not yours.
Yeah, and for content where you're not sure if someone's actually going to pay for it, right? Like, well, you can pay for the ads or not pay for the ads, and if most people are just going to watch it with the ads, because they're 13-year-olds and they don't have any money or they don't like care or they're going to BitTorrent it anyway,
Yeah.
then it's like, well, you probably can't make any money with that. But Hulu Plus, it's like people are giving you money to get access to it. They're probably going to give you more money to get rid of the ads.
I can't.
Right?
It is remarkably inexpensive. I can't believe how cheap it is.
$7.99, $6.99,
It's $7.99.
$7.99.
And that gives you access to not only the currently airing season, which is way better than like Netflix because you can't do that on Netflix, but it gives you access to all the back catalogs. It gives you access to the entire collection of Criterion movies, which is insane. There are hundreds of amazing movies in there, and they're just included.
They just need to get their act together. I am very disappointed with the experience. Like, I hate the ads. I hate the way the ads interrupt things. I've seen on multiple different. I've seen multiple times the ads start screwing up, and that's like probably predictable, right? Because they've got like this database that has the content, and then they're trying to splice in this other thing that's got these random ads that they're kind of like trying to put in there.
Yeah.
It's like, how hard is it gonna? I mean, how easy could it be for that to just kind of like not like to screw up a little bit? Probably pretty easy. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just watch the whole thing all the way through, like Netflix?
Yeah.
Although Netflix is going to get out of business.
No, Netflix is going to go out of business. I haven't had any real problems with the Hulu app for Xbox. I'm a little bothered that there's no real good way to queue up like all of the shows that you watch. There's just not a really good way to do that. But I have noticed I guess it's a bug. It's not a glitch. It's a bug. There's a bug related to the ads that on the Xbox, it is actually possible to skip them.
Ooh.
And I'm almost afraid to talk about it because I'm pretty sure that once I do, someone will fix it.
Maybe you should just keep that on the DL. I don't
But
have
there's a certain combination of a couple of different things that if you do it, it'll skip right over the ad.
up, down, down, left, right.
It's the country code.
Okay, well, we'll move right along to the final thing about the Apple TV, and then on to our big main topic. So it comes with a remote. We mentioned it comes with a remote, right? I hate this remote.
Do you have to use it ever after you get it like hooked up if you have an iPhone?
No, but here's the thing. So there's one critical piece of functionality that you can only do with the phone, or excuse me, you can only do with the remote.
Uh-huh.
Um, if you are really, really deep into a menu tree, like you go into an app, you go into a season, you go into an episode, you go into the episode's cast list, and then you're looking up a member of that cast for other things they're in, and you're like 7 layers deep. On the phone, if you want to get back to the home screen, you have to do menu, menu, menu,
Just one step at a
menu,
time.
menu. Whereas on the remote, you can long press the menu button, and it always takes you directly to the home screen.
Okay, well, obviously they just need to add that to the phone version.
So, one, Apple, fix that. That's really annoying. But I really don't like the remote. It's beautifully designed, all aluminum. It feels a little chintzy, which is weird for Apple. Probably because it's so light. It had the battery case. The way that it opens is very awkward, and then the battery inside, it's like this big round watch battery, and when you open up the case, it's just all loose and free in there, which makes me feel like, oh geez, how is this held in there? Which does not seem like an Apple product. And it's like sharp, so you hold it in your hands and it like bites into your hands. It's like this sharp little shard of aluminum that you have to hold in your hands. And then the buttons themselves are kind of like the menu, and especially the menu button, which is concave, like the aluminum like bites into your fingers when you're like pushing down on it. And it's like the cardinal sin of this thing is that it's IR.
Oh,
In this modern era,
of like,
how
why is this not Bluetooth?
or some sort of Wi-Fi device, if I am not pointing the thing, oh, and another thing, if I'm not pointing this right at the damn device, it won't work. But for some reason, my mom's Bose system that has an iPhone dock in it that you can control with a Bose remote, if it has an iPhone docked to it, if you push play on the Apple remote, even if I hid the IR thing for the Bose, I hid it like under a box with like a sheet over it. And if you push play on that Apple TV and you've got something in that Bose player, it will turn the Bose player on. No matter what you do.
Those sound guys, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, so like they've figured out how to like make sure no matter where you're pointing a remote, it will turn on. Apple hasn't figured out that magic technology yet. And also, how is it not a Bluetooth remote or a something like? I don't understand. It seems like a total waste of engineering to like make this thing, and it's IR, and I just don't understand it at all. But I will say this. I used the remote for like a good 5-6 minutes setting up the TV, and then I switched back to my iPhone. Now, I mentioned on the last one how thin and light my iPhone feels,
Yeah.
right? It feels like a brick after holding that little Apple TV remote.
Yeah.
And that, I tweeted about this. That's where they're going. That's definitely where they're going with this phone. Like, I can just tell, like, after holding that device, I can sense sort of like Apple's like their vision for, like this is where we want to go. We want it to be like light as a feather, this perfectly solid little block of aluminum, tiny thing. And somehow they made a device that made my teeny tiny phone feel giant. So
I can't wait until Looper comes out on it's released so that we can watch it, because there are things in there. It takes place like in the not so distant future, and they have technological advances that the movie just pays no attention to. They're just there, which is one of the many great things about that movie. And one of them is their cell phones, which you never really get even a good look at, but they look like this. First of all, they're clear, which I'm going to just say again, Minority Report, bad idea. No one's going for clear screens. But they look kind of like what you're talking about. They're like this tiny featherweight like thing that is just completely intuitive and small in your hand.
It's coming.
Yeah.
All right. So now it's time for. We'll see if this is a regular segment, but it's time for the inaugural lame tech advice article review.
Zee.
That's not a good name. Well, anyway, Shawn sent me this article, and this is the genesis of this this segment. And then I came up with my own article to complain about. But Shawn sent me this article that had it had really lame advice.
I follow CNET on Twitter, and I don't at this point I don't know why. I don't really know why.
I don't know. For the kicks, for fun.
My biggest annoyance with them is that they don't retweet, they repost their articles all the time. They like post an article at 8 a.m. and then they post it again at 1 p.m. and then again at 6 p.m. and then again at 6 a.m. the next day. And I'm like, yes, I saw that. Thank you. Dismiss. But anyway, they posted this article that the title caught my eye because it was what was the title of it? Do you have it?
Why you should buy a cheap Blu-ray player on Friday.
Yep. I saw that and I was like, well, Carter and I have kind of already talked about this in the past, like why you just flat out shouldn't buy a Blu-ray player ever. So I had to go look at it, and I read it, and I was like, well, I guess CNET needs something to write about, so this is what they wrote.
Good advice?
No. I have a Blu-ray player, and I love when I put in a Blu-ray movie and I watch it and it just looks incredible, but that's all it does. And most of the time I spend watching streaming content over the internet and I don't think about it for 2 seconds. I'm not like, man, I wish this were Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's one of my questions for Shawn was when I was reading this was like, is this guy just like a shill for Sony or Panasonic or something? Like, why is he writing this article?
No, he's not a shill for them. He's a shill for page views.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, oh, why should I buy this? Maybe I'll read this article.
Exactly.
And he's basically saying, like, you should buy a crappy Blu-ray player. And he's basically saying, like, you could get one for, I mean, I guess on Black Friday you probably could get one for $50, but...
Yeah, which is
like,
a great price. But then the second part of the article, he points out that you're going to want this thing so that you can hook up your Roku to it. And then I'm like, well, just skip the Blu-ray player and buy the Roku. Why do you need it?
No matter how cheap your Blu-ray player is, it's going to be 5 times bigger than any little Roku, Apple TV, whatever you buy.
And its functionality is going to be exhausted in a matter of years, whereas your streaming content, whatever, has no end in sight.
Big, dumb box. That is what a Blu-ray player is. It is a big, dumb box. I have a Blu-ray player, or I don't have one. My roommate in Richmond has a Blu-ray player. I watched a couple Blu-rays on it. They look nice. I'm really upset with Blu-rays because it seems even worse than DVDs with like the unskippable content and the annoying things that it does, you know?
Yeah.
So those are huge reasons that I would be like, don't get a Blu-ray player. Why would you want that? As I said, I don't know a lot about like Rokus or Boxies or whatever, but like my Apple TV is a 1080 device, so I'm not really missing out on if something is 1080, I can stream it to my TV. I don't need the Blu-ray player. I just don't know why you would. I don't know why you would purchase one of these things. It just seems it just seems foolish to offer this advice to human beings.
Yeah, CNET, I generally trust their reviews, but as far as what they actually promote now as like tech consumerism, I don't understand it because it seems like a lot of dead ends, and it's just like, well, it's out there, so I guess you should probably want it, right?
Well, like the sub headline or whatever of this is pairing up a cheap bare bones Blu-ray player with a Roku LT is a smart buying tactic.
For what? What is the end game?
Not to mention, Blu-rays are expensive, and in a couple of years, you're gonna have to buy all this again on your streaming service.
Right. I would just rather own it I would have my name on something that says that I own this, and then I can download it from wherever for whatever period of time that service exists.
Exactly. And if you buy a Blu-ray and you want to be able to get it onto some sort of network to be able to watch it on your TV, you're probably illegally pirating it.
Some of the Blu-rays that I've seen, including Scott Pilgrim, come with a DRM-free digital copy, which is nice. But you can't say that about everything, and it's still not convenient.
It's not. And I mean, I just don't understand why anyone would want to. No one is going to get a lot of use out of a Blu-ray player. So yes, bad advice, lame tech advice. CNET. All right. Well, after Shawn sent me this article, I saw another article basically a day later that also had a lot of lame tech advice. So I wanted to include it in this new segment. And this is an article from Slate, which lets you know, if you follow Slate a lot, they sometimes just post contrarian articles. Like, everyone thinks this, we're gonna post an article about that. And it's like, yeah, you're off the base and you're just trying to get some page clicks.
See, and I wish that they would have been the counter to the Blu-ray argument and just been like, you don't want that. But no, not really.
And not to mention, it's on 3 pages.
Yes, I noticed that.
You can get it
cha-ching.
You can get it on a single page, or you can get the mobile version of it, which is on a single page. But
yeah.
So this is an article by Farhad Manju, who writes a lot for Slate in the tech side, and the article's name is "What Not to Buy on Black Friday."
My junior year composition teacher would have had a fit with that thesis.
What not to buy on Black Friday. First of all, I want to point out the name of the headline of the article. It's what not to buy on Black Friday. Two of the pieces here. It's basically a list, which is huge on the internet these days, like 5 things,
yeah.
Right? So it's 5 things, like your 5 things.
Yay.
Hey, 2 of them are things to buy.
And then even within the do not buy, he does list what you should buy.
Yes, he says, but do buy these. He says, first of all, he has to use like a double negative thing. He says, do buy a non-gargantuan TV. That's not a don't buy. And then also buy a second computer monitor for your computer.
So don't not buy a second computer monitor.
And don't not buy a non-gargantuan TV.
The bonus points for the use of gargantuan, though.
Yeah, gargantuan. So first of all, the article name is ludicrous because 2 of these things are things you should buy. 2, he says don't buy a gargantuan TV. What he's really saying is just research what type of TV you're going to buy.
Oh, like a smart consumer.
Yeah, he's like, well, if you get a big TV, you could be getting a crappy deal. And he basically says, like, make sure you're not getting a crappy deal. And it's like, well, yeah, you should just do that with things that you purchase.
Right. Like you have been doing with TVs since 1958.
And hey, I'm trying to come to this article telling me advice, and the advice is you should research things. Thanks, Farhad. Great advice. 3, this might be good advice for people, but if you are in the market, I bet it's not. He basically is saying, if you're going to buy an e-reader, buy a new Kindle. And it's like, well, yeah, what other e-readers are people buying? And if they're going to buy a really cheap, crappy e-reader, are they really going to get some advice from Slate?
Are they reading this article?
It's like, well, make sure you don't buy an ebook reader without an illuminated screen, especially one that isn't made by Amazon or Barnes & Noble. The number of double negatives in this article is sort of like it's like what Cracker Jack box do I need to get the decoder ring out of to read this article? Like, this is madness.
I read it, but I don't know what any of it means.
It's all in code. And then the final things, and I swear this is not an Apple thing, even though I'm going to complain about this. He has 2 Apple-specific things that you shouldn't buy. And one of them is just very specifically, and he says it, that he's just pissed that they changed the dock connector.
Right.
So one of this is don't buy an iPhone or an iPad dock.
So he's retroactively decided that he never should have done that in the first place.
Right. So I'm going to point out that if you bought a dock connector in 2001 and it was an officially licensed dock connector, not something, something that actually has made for iPod on it, it still works with an iPod today as long as it has the wide 30-pin connector. After 10 years, it's time to get a new dock connector for this thing.
Yeah,
It's
10-year
10
lifetime.
years old. 10 years. And I just will not sit still for people who are like, well, you should be using industry standard. The industry standard has changed like 5 times over the past 10 years. You cannot use something from 10 years ago with a phone now. But if you're in the Apple ecosystem, and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying like you have to be or that's the only way to be. If you're using the licensed products from 10 years ago, you could still use them today because they like made sure you can. And I'm also just like I think it's a little ludicrous to suggest that micro USB is the end all be all standard because like the French said it. Like it's because like the European community has decided like this is the good standard. It's like this is what we're going to say is like the good standard. Like this Lightning connector is probably going to be around for 10 more years. They're going to be able to update it so that it can use USB 3 and other standards and it'll be backwards compatible because they're in control of it and it's all sorts of great things. And if you get an officially licensed thing with a Lightning connector, it'll work fine. But he's just saying, well, don't buy it. And he even said, like in September, I howled in injustice at the new dock. I argued that Apple should have gone with an industry standard connector. No.
If he's been watching Apple for the past 2 decades, I don't know why he thought that his argument would do anything.
Right. And it's like, if they switch to an industry standard connector, 2 years from now, those connectors wouldn't work anymore.
If he's really that concerned about it, why wouldn't he have just stuck with an analog solution?
Yeah,
exactly. It's got a headphone jack on it.
Right. So like that's just him being angry at Apple. And then he also says, don't buy a non-Retina MacBook. Also, probably the iPad 2. Oh, and the iPad Nano. He's basically saying like, don't buy any of the not newest stuff.
Right.
That's exactly like what the crazy people are like. You can only buy the newest Apple products. Like, why? What? You can't I have a non-Retina MacBook Pro in front of me right now. Apparently, it's just a paperweight.
Yeah.
I'm not recording a podcast with Shawn on it and on the internet and doing things on it. It doesn't work at all.
That doesn't do anything. How do you see what you're doing? The resolution's so bad.
I mean, I feel like I'm looking back into like the 1830s.
Carter's coming to us from a printing press today.
Exactly. It's just like I'm mimeoing this and I send it to Shawn like over the mail. It's punch card.
It's a wax cylinder.
This is something that I think crazy Apple people, he's buying into this sort of mindset of like, well, if it's not the newest thing, it's no good. It's like, no, it's fine. Like my mom has an iPad 2. I bought her an iPad 2 when I got my iPad 3. And I love my iPad 3. I love the Retina display. She has stopped using her PC. She like only uses her iPad. She does email on it. She's on the internet constantly. She loves watching, YouTube videos on it. And hey, it works great with her new or with her new Apple TV, and she can like stream stuff from her iPad onto it, and it just works great for her. Is it just a brick? Does it do nothing? It's also inexpensive.
If they were really that bad, they wouldn't still be in the line. Apple would have removed them, as they have removed many products.
Yeah, exactly. He's talking about like, oh, it's this weird overlap, and there's the same problem with the iPad 2, which Apple is selling for $399. Yes, that's less than the new one, but it doesn't have the model's amazing high-resolution display. Then he says, if you want to save money, go with the iPad Mini, which is actually faster, arguable, than the iPad 2, and much more portable and costs only $329. Well, my mom wouldn't want the iPad Mini because it's too small.
Right.
So, like, there are reasons why you would get it. And then I bought an iPad Nano, and he thinks like, well, you're crazy. For $129, you can get an iPod Touch, which allows you to connect to the cloud. So the Nano is kind of pointless. Well, let me say to you, Farhad Manju, I bought this so that I can use it for running, and an iPod Touch is way too big for that.
Yeah.
Why, so yes, there is a reason to get this device. Just because you couldn't think of one doesn't mean no one should get one. So to Farhad and Matthew, thank you for giving us some articles to talk about on the lame tech advice article review. You gotta get a better name. If anyone has a better name, let us know.
Or any more lame tech advice articles.
Oh,
Tweet them to us.
FTcast. Let us know if you've got some tech advice, articles or reviews which you think are particularly off base that you would like us to read and potentially talk about.
I wish we were well known enough that we could do our own tech reviews, but that I don't think anyone's lining up to send us products.
I don't think so. Maybe if we had a higher clout score.
Okay. Or maybe if you were coming to us from a Retina display.
If only. I mean, if this was a Retina MacBook Pro, then we'd be, famous. But, now, we're famous and, we're famous between the two of us. I know you very well.
Next week we will be returning to Horrorville. No. Horrorland. No.
Horrorwoodville.
Damn it. What's the park? We're going to go to Rosswood Park.
Rosswood Park.
And we'll catch up on Marble Hornets finally. And we will also return to our discussion of American Horror Story. We'll catch up on at least 2 episodes.
Yes, so next week, make sure that you've seen entries 63 through 65.
Boy, they did a lot while we were gone.
They did. And also make sure, if you're following along with American Horror Story, that you've seen this week's episode. That's The Origin of Monstrosity, and next week's episode, Dark Cousin.
Recording 1, recording 2. Okay.